I used to walk a lot at night. I live in a small town, the kind where most people are asleep by 10 p.m. and the streets get so quiet it's almost peaceful. I put in my headphones, listen to a podcast or some ambient music, and just wander around for a while to clear my head. This happened in late October of last year. It had been raining on and off all day, and by the time it cleared, it was already around 11:30 p.m. I remember checking the weather and seeing the rain was supposed to hold off until the morning, so I figured I'd go for a quick walk before bed. My usual loop is about 30 minutes, a few neighborhood streets that circle back to my place. But that night, for whatever reason, I felt like doing something different. There's a wooded trail near the edge of town, not super deep into the woods or anything, just a short footpath that cuts through a patch of trees and connects two neighborhoods. I've taken it a few times during the day, but never at night. It's not lit or maintained well, and after a storm, it can get muddy. Still, I don't know. Something about the night felt calm. The air smelled clean, and I had a strange sense of nostalgia I can't explain. Like the kind you get from an old song you can't quite place. So I took the path. It starts at the end of a cul-de-sac that dips into a small slope. I stepped around a few puddles and kept walking, music low in my ears. I was maybe 5 minutes in when I noticed something weird. No wind, no bugs, no distant cars. It was just so quiet. It was so quiet that I took my headphones out just to confirm. That's when I realized how unnaturally silent everything was. Even in the middle of night, there's usually some sound. Leaves moving, distant barking, a plane overhead. But there was nothing. Just my breathing and the squeaky sound my shoes made. I started walking a little faster. Not because I was scared exactly, just unsettled. Then I saw someone up ahead. Not close, maybe 30 to 40 feet away, just standing in the middle of the trail. No flashlight, no phone, not moving. At first, I thought maybe it was just a sign or a tree. Like my eyes were playing tricks on me. But the shape was too human. Shoulders, head, arms by its side. Just still. I froze. I tried to clear my throat, say something like, "Hey," or "You okay?" But my voice caught. And the longer I stared, the more wrong it felt. Like something about the way the figure stood didn't look right. Too stiff, too balanced. Almost like it was being held up. After a few seconds, I took a step back. Just one. And I swear to God, as I did, it tilted its head. Not slowly, not naturally, but like a jerk. A sudden, mechanical tilt to the side. My legs moved before I had time to think. I turned around and started walking fast, not running. I didn't want to make it chase me, if that makes any sense. But I was moving quick, watching the ground, trying not to slip. Then I heard it. Splashing sounds. Heavy footsteps behind me hitting puddles. Not running, just walking, but hard. Getting closer. I didn't look back. I cut through the trail faster than I ever had, hit the edge of the cul-de-sac on the other side, and booked it down the street. I turned corner after corner, not stopping until the main road with streetlights and houses. Only then did I glance behind me. Nothing. No one. The street was empty. I walked the rest of the way home in a daze. My clothes were soaked, even though it hadn't rained. I remember locking the door behind me and just standing in my living room, trying to process what the hell just happened. I'm a 22-year-old male. It was a regular morning. I had just gotten off the bus and was walking 5 minutes to campus with my headphones on. The university was massive, plastered with signs. You can't miss it. It's an important detail. Still, a dirty little minivan pulled up beside me. The man inside looked to be in his 40s. His clothes were grimy. The van was grimy, but nothing strange. It's normal for these local vans to haul all kinds of junk. He asked gently where the uni was. I pointed, smiled, and told him it was straight ahead, and declined his offer for a lift. Seemed generous. He drove off. I put my headphones back in and kept walking. 1 minute later, the van was stopped in front of me again. "Get in," he said. "I'll give you a ride." I smiled and repeated the same. "No thanks." I was a few feet away. He stared at me for a few seconds, then drove away. I kept going. My friend called me, telling me that he'd be late and to wait at the cafeteria. As I talked, the van rolled up beside me for the third time. He asked again, but this time the tone had shifted. He looked at me longer. His gaze slid from my chest to my feet. He wasn't offering me any help. He looked tense, like someone who expected to be obeyed. I took the phone away from my ear and told him, "Dude, the uni is literally 2 steps away," and I pointed. "Thanks, but no." He watched me for a few seconds more and drove off. The road was nearly empty. Then I realized he wasn't lost. If he wanted to get to campus, he'd already be there. He looped the block. He was circling me. My first honest thought was confusion, then anger. Why had I been so polite? And then a sharper feeling, concern. I flipped on survival mode, and even if he wanted to rob me, he had many chances to do that, as the road was very empty. 1 minute later, at the edge of campus, he stopped me again. "Get in, I'll give you a ride." This time I looked at him dead in the face and said, "No. Now you can go wherever the hell you want to go." He didn't even look at my face at all this time. He stared at my hair, then my body, for 30 seconds straight. Slow and hungry, like a predator deciding which move to make. I couldn't read his eyes. Lust? Something darker? Honestly, I didn't want to know. I noticed something in the passenger seat. A rope. It was a small detail, but it landed like a weight on my chest. For a second, I imagined scenes. I'll jump him. I'll punch him. I'll teach him a lesson. I felt that boiling superhero instinct. The idea that I could handle it because I'm a guy like him. I wasn't a very strong guy, but I thought I had a good chance. Or because I can't let this slide because I'm a man. I crossed the road and slipped through the university gate, leaving the van behind me. But the van pulled up near the campus walls and parked. I stopped inside the door, frozen and shaking with a mess of emotions. Shock, confusion, anger. I even told myself out loud, maybe I should have gotten in the van. Maybe I should have let him put his hands on me, so I could beat him when he had his guard down. I wanted him to meet the wrong person. Believe it or not, I turned around and was heading outside the campus back to him. Then my friend messaged me. "Okay, I just arrived. Let's finish our study." He called again, telling me to hurry up so we can get a good spot in the library. I let out a sigh and walked back inside. Now that I'm writing this, I know how reckless that impulse to be a hero was. It was raw emotion, not strategy. I'm calm and gentle by nature. But men sometimes think they can handle sexual assault, like it's a problem they can fix with force. That's not true. It can go wrong in a second. I'm very lucky it didn't for me. This happened a few years ago. It was a short encounter, but definitely lasted. It was New Year's Eve, 2018. I was 9, my brother was 6. I was at a friend's house watching the fireworks from her back garden. We left around 10 p.m. and began the 4-minute walk home. It was dark, but we were comfortable walking home, as we had many times, and could see my house. As we got closer, my brother stopped talking about the fireworks and asked, "Who's at our house?" I didn't think much of it and just said, "Mom, why?" He said, "Well, who's she outside with?" I was obviously confused and looked up to see two men leaning against our wall, late 30s. My neighbor at the time often threw parties, so I assumed it was someone from her house and gave him a simple, "Don't know," took his hand and continued walking. We got about 20 feet from my house when they stood up and began walking towards us, barking. I grabbed my brother and ran with him back down the street. At the end of my street, there was a ginnel leading to the back gardens. I crossed over the street and hid behind the end house with my brother. I called my mom. Yes, I was 9 with a phone. She answered and started having a go at me. She assumed I was joking and went to the front door expecting no one to be there. I heard the door open and it was silent for a few seconds. Then I heard her yelling, "What the fuck you doing sat on my wall?" I heard frantic apologies coming down the phone, then her yelling again, "And why the fuck are you barking and chasing my children?" She later said they apologized and ran down the opposite street. My brother was too scared to move, and whatever adrenaline I had was gone, and I couldn't carry him anymore. We asked around, and no one saw anyone. Our curfew was then moved to 8 p.m. She said they didn't seem drunk, but they didn't stick around enough for her to be sure. Shortly after, I was in the same backings with a friend, around 7. The area had back gardens, garages, and a circular road around the garages. We were sat at an elderly neighbor's garage when a fully tinted van came in. We ignored it, assuming it was here to fix something. After ignoring it, we completely forgot about it and began to skip in the road. The van began driving behind us. It chased us 3 times behind the backings. After the 3rd time, we had the bright idea to leave the backings and close the gate behind us to avoid getting chased. I mentioned it, but brushed it off, and I never really mentioned it again. But I imagined it could be connected, and we moved shortly after. After this, and honestly still now, my brother suffers from severe anxiety when it comes to going anywhere alone. It's gotten a lot better in the recent years though. Okay, this is a pretty weird one and happened to me when I was about 16 or 17. I can't exactly recall fully, but when I was around that age, I often traveled back and forth on foot from my friends' houses, if they weren't that far away. For context, I live in a small village in the UK. It's often really quiet besides a few mischievous teenagers, and as a teen myself, I was flat broke and public transportation didn't run too late. Bus routes were also ass, so I'd often walk. One night, after a few drinks at my friend's house, it was probably around 11 p.m., I began my usual walk home, listening to some music and chilling, the usual. On my route home, I usually would take a shortcut through the suburban estate of old people's homes and bungalows. It's pretty dark as the streetlights are scattered a bit. As I was walking through, I saw a scrawny figure in the distance with a large silhouette of hair stumbling a little, almost like they were drunk. As I approached, I could make out an old wrinkly guy, probably about 5'6", with gray, long messy hair, wearing a long cream matte raincoat. Kind of an Einstein-esque look. I tried to swiftly pass him, but before I passed him, he turned to me and grinned with wide eyes saying, "I like little boys. Do you like little boys?" I rushed past him, quite scared, and just said, "No, sorry mate," or something to that effect. As I got further away, I began to run a little, and I turned back to see him slowly following me. I eventually shook him off and got home. This may not be the most interesting story, but that night has always stuck with me, and I think about it often as I usually take the same shortcut all these years later. For some context, I'm now 14 and I'm a female. I was around 8 or 9 years old when this happened. It was around 5 or 6 a.m. Everyone was going to work and school. Normally at this time, my brother would drop off my mom to work. I lived with him, my mom, some lady, and my mom's boyfriend at the time. I changed and walked out with my backpack. I'm supposed to go to school way later, like around 8 a.m. As I'm walking out, the lady that lived with us looks at me while she's doing the dishes and just lets me walk out knowing that my brother and mom had already left and that it's unsafe. Oh, and for some more context, that lady was my mom's boyfriend's ex. Why she was living with us, I don't really know. She just gives me a glare and I walk out. I have no idea that my brother left with my mom and assumed he had left me seeing no car outside. I began crying and crossing the street, hopelessly calling out for my mom. I then see these big trees and 2 guys. They were really skinny and looked to be about 20 to 25. Their clothes weren't the best and they had these weird grins on their face. One of them spots me and tells me, "We know where your mom is," makes a motion with his hand for me to follow him, and they go back behind a bush. But I'm forever thankful that I turned back around and went into my house. It was still dark outside. I'm scared to think what could have happened. This may not be the most interesting story, but it hurts me how, at such a young age, these things can happen to you. Stay safe and take care of your kids. I don't tell people this story because it sounds made up. It's not. I don't care if anyone believes me. It happened, and it still messes with me when I think about it. Back in 2018, I was living in a small apartment on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, just a 1-bedroom. The building was old, smelled like flour and wood, but it was cheap and quiet. I was doing contract work from home, so I would often go on long walks at night just to clear my head. My route was always the same, up 2 blocks, cut over through a small park, then loop back down towards the grocery store and home. It took about 40 minutes. I usually started around midnight, not for any spooky reason, just because I kept weird hours and liked when the streets were empty. So one night, late September or early October, I went out like usual. The air was damp and cool, high humidity. I had headphones in, podcast playing, hoodie on, normal night. Everything felt fine until I turned off the main road and cut through the park. There's a narrow sidewalk that runs along the back edge of the park, past some trees, and then splits off into 2 directions. Left takes you towards the residential streets. Right cuts down towards a quieter area, mostly old industrial buildings and a dead-end street that backs up into the woods. I had taken the right path a few times before, but not in quite a while. That night, I went right. I don't know why. I wasn't thinking about it. It just felt like the way to go. Almost immediately, it felt wrong. Not scary exactly, just off. Like the air felt heavier. My footsteps sounded louder than usual. And the streetlights that usually lined the section, only one of them was fully lit up. It was maybe 50 feet ahead, and it flickered every few seconds. I took my headphones out. I couldn't hear anything. No wind, no cars, not even my own breathing for a second. It was like I stepped into a bubble where the sound just didn't carry right. That's when I realized something even stranger. I didn't recognize what street I was on. Keep in mind, I've walked these neighborhoods dozens of times. I knew every turn, every crack in the sidewalk, but for some reason the street didn't look familiar at all. It was narrow, darker than it should have been, and something about the houses on either side looked weird. Shapes of houses, but little detail, no mailboxes. I didn't see any cars in any driveway. I looked to see what street I was on, but I couldn't find a street sign. That's when it hit me. Every street in the neighborhood had a sign. Even alleyways had signs, but this one didn't. All I could find was a bare metal pole with nothing on it. I stopped walking. I was confused. Something in me, something deeper than fear, told me not to keep going. Told me that I made a wrong turn that didn't make sense. I could still see the park path and a glimpse of the streetlight. Maybe a 2-minute walk back, but before I could move, I saw something up ahead. A person leaning up against one of the broken light poles, not really moving. I couldn't make out much as it was kind of dark, but they were tall, maybe 6 feet, leaning perfectly still, facing me. Not doing anything, just standing there. I always said I would be the person that chose flight, but I stood frozen, trying to decide if I should call out or just leave. And then the closest light to me flickered once more, and then went out. It was almost completely dark. I didn't wait. I turned and started walking fast back towards the park, slightly running, but more like those fast-paced walking competitions. I told myself I was just being paranoid, that it was probably just someone having a smoke or waiting for a ride, that I just let everything get to me and I was overthinking things. Then I heard it. Footsteps. They were coming from behind me and sounded like they were matching my pace. I sped up, and it sounded like the footsteps behind me sped up. I suddenly stopped. They stopped, so I turned around. No one was there. At least I couldn't see anyone. Just an empty street. I couldn't hear anything either. That's when I noticed something even worse. I wasn't standing on pavement anymore. I was standing on wet dirt. In my confusion, I had walked off to the side, next to the park, but within the trees, and these trees were pretty thick. I don't know how it happened. I hadn't turned. I hadn't left the street. I thought I was walking straight the whole time. And now, somehow, I was deep enough in the trees that I couldn't see the light. I panicked. Full-on panic. I turned around and started running. No idea if I was going the wrong way, hoping that I would see something familiar. After about 2 minutes of running, I stumbled on the front of the park, the opposite side of where I was standing before, and I was on a street that now looked very familiar. It was a street by my apartment somehow. I had come out 2 blocks from where I went in. The park was now behind me. I walked back the next day in the daylight, trying to trace my steps. I found the path through the park, found the split where I went right, but I have no idea how I got onto that street. I still don't know what street it was. There's no street sign, and everything looked different in the daylight. I don't know. Maybe my eyes were playing tricks on me. I haven't been back that way since.